three refuges. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. So welcome, friends, to this Wednesday Sutta study. And this Sutta tonight is actually kind of special because it's the only Sutta, well, one of the main suttas, especially in the Majjhima Nikaya, that's actually repeated 4 times. And the sutta itself is the same, but just some of the interesting little exchanges between the monks and some deities are different. But it's also the shortest, I think the shortest sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, and the one that's repeated 4 times. So the Pali name for this sutta is the Bhaddekaratta Sutta, and it's number 131 in the Majjhima Nikaya, but also 132, 133, and 134 are also of the same name, Bhaddekaratta Sutta, except there's some different parts of the name added, like Ananda Bhaddekaratta Sutta and Loma Sanghankya Bhaddekaratta Sutta. These are the names of the monks who are sort of starring, you might say, have a starring role in these suttas. So, and the translation of this sutta has been translated in different ways by different translators. Now, the translation of that Bhikkhu Bodhi uses in his Majjhima Nikaya, the Wisdom Publications one, is a single excellent night. So Bhaddekaratta is the Pali word that's translated as a single excellent night, or other translators have used, there's one little booklet called Ideal Solitude, which also is that author's sort of translation of the sutta. And some use on one auspicious night. And so anyway, it's about how to spend a day and night in the best possible way. So this, the first sutta is given by the Buddha, and he's teaching the group of monks He said, monks, I shall teach you the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night. Listen, attend closely to what I shall say. And they replied, yes, Venerable Sir. Now I'm going to share the screen with the verses that the Buddha then recites to the monks. I hope I can get it up. Okay. Hope you can see that. So these are the stanzas or the summary for the one who has had a single excellent night. It's really about the essence of meditation practice and the heart of especially of the vipassana, mindfulness and the vipassana meditation. So he says, let not a person revive the past, or on the future build one's hope. For the past has been left behind, and the future has not arrived. Instead, with insight, let one see each presently arising and vanishing thing. Let him know that and be sure of it, invincibly, unshakably. Today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come, who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep death and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, tirelessly by day and night, it is this person, the peaceful sage, the Buddha has said, one who has had a single excellent night. That means if one can spend the night, in that state of the present moment, seeing just the arising and passing away of the five aggregates, the rising and passing away of moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, without getting dragged to the past or future. Actually, if one could do that, one could attain enlightenment. And that's why it's called a single excellent night, because if one was able to maintain that for a whole, night or day, then it's possible one could attain a stream entry by doing that. Now, then the Buddha goes on to, so that's called the summary. And now the Buddha, the exposition, the Buddha goes on to explain the exposition, kind of explain the meaning of that. So how do you run back to the past? Well, you muster delight there thinking, I had such form in the past. I had such feeling, perception, thoughts, consciousness in the past. That's how you run back to the past. So that's regarding the five aggregates of form, feeling, perception, thoughts, and consciousness. This is what we normally identify as being I, myself, and the clinging to the idea of self. We identify our body. So, okay, I'm going to stop the screen sharing and go back to the normal screen. And so then the Buddha goes on to say, how does one not revive, how does one revive the past, okay? Then he explains. How does one not revive the past? One does not nurture delight their thinking. I had such material form in the past, or had such feeling in the past, perception, formations, or consciousness in the past. But that's what we do. The ordinary person does quite often, right? They remember the past. Oh, last week I had, I was, really feeling good. So you're recalling the feeling you had in the past, or maybe the past when you were younger and your body, looked a little bit better, or you had more strength or health, and so you're wishing, holding on to the past, or even the various thoughts you had. So that's reviving the past. And how does one build up hope upon the future? One nurtures delight their thinking. May I have such material form in the future. May I have such feelings in the future. May I have such perceptions in the future. May I have such mental formations in the future. May I have such consciousness in the future. So maybe even like yourselves as being meditators, you might thinking, oh, may my meditation tonight go better. May I have better concentration in the future, or, by next month or next 6 months or a year, I hope I can attain jhana, or I hope I, attain stream entry, or whatever. So anyway, that's building up the future. And that takes you away from being centered and grounded in the present moment. And how does one not build up hope upon the future? One does not foster delight their thinking. May I have material form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, and consciousness in the future. That's how one does not build up the hope for the future. And then he goes on to say, and how, monks, is one vanquished in regard to the presently arisen states? That vanquished means how is one, disturbed by them, or how do they catch one and trap one in more desire or aversion, or cause you to do some unskillful karma. So here a person, this is interesting, he says here, an untaught ordinary person who has no regard for the noble ones, who has not heard the Dhamma. It is unskilled and undisciplined in the Dhamma of the noble ones, who has no regard for superior, knowledgeable, or wise persons. So they regard material form as self, or self as possessed of material form, or material form as in self, or self as immaterial form. And he regards the feelings, perceptions, formations, and consciousness as their self, or self-possessed of consciousness, or consciousness in the self, or self as in consciousness. So, it's a kind of a play on words. This is a standard refrain in many suttas, how an untaught person regards the feeling of the self. They think they think their body is one with the self, or their self is in the body, or the self is apart from the body. And there's different ideas, so they're still clinging on to the sense of self. And that is how one, and then because when that self or the body, the feelings, perceptions change to the worse, then they get suffering from that also, or they keep on building up the clinging and being trapped by the form, feeling, perception, volitions, and consciousness. So that's how one is vanquished in terms of those 5 aggregates. And then he says, and then how is a person invincible in regard to the presently arisen states? So that means what's arising in the future. So this means, while you are meditating, you are not identifying with, the form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness as, you being the owner or controller of them. You're having that vision and understanding that they're just impermanent, fleeting states arising because of conditionings, and you're not, grasping onto them. So that's how is one invincible regarding these states, that one regards all those 5 aggregates as not me, not mine, not myself. And therefore one doesn't get caught and trapped by them. That is how one is invincible in regard to the presently arisen states. So that is, and then I'm going to go back to the share screen for a moment. Then it says, today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come, who knows? So that refers to having the right effort and not, procrastinating, because tomorrow death may come, who knows? So I've said in previous talks, there's a little saying that tomorrow or the next life, we don't know which one will come first, because there's no bargain with mortality. And especially, as we've already mentioned, with this coronavirus, where people have gotten sick, and within just as little as 3 or 4 days or a week, people that might have been fairly healthy have died. So there's no bargain with mortality, and there's no way to predict the future, because you could go for a routine checkup at the doctor, and then maybe get some CT scan or chest X-ray, and then get a note from the doctor the following week saying they discovered you have terminal cancer or something. So this happens to people, right? So that's why today the effort must be made. So one who dwells thus ardently, tirelessly by day and night, it is this person, the peaceful sage has said, who has had a single excellent night. Now again, this refers to the fact that if you can, practice this state of, meditation, awareness, being grounded in the, in the here and now, in the present moment, understanding, seeing the anicca, dukkha, and anatta of each moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, or thinking, or each occurrence of form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. Although form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness arise in each state of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. So, that would probably be equal to being in that state of equanimity, being in a state of jhanic strength concentration, the enlightenment factor of, the enlightenment factors having been developed, as we've already discussed. that one could, enter the stream. So that would be considered a very auspicious night, or having one excellent night. So again, as we've been going over, the practice of meditation now for a number of weeks, and covering different aspects of the, developing samatha and vipassana, going over the Anapanasati Sutta, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And so all of those are helping to develop, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, and hopefully the factors of enlightenment. Okay, so that is the first sutta, where the Buddha just himself is giving this talk to the monks. Now, this next sutta is similar, but it involves, Venerable Ananda, who was the Buddha's attendant and the one who had memorized all of the Buddha's discourses, who used to accompany the Buddha to everywhere where he gave talks. And, Ananda had a perfect kind of memory that he could hear these talks and basically memorize the whole thing. Or he heard them, a number of times. So he, he was like the library for the Buddhist talks. Anyway, so it seems that Venerable Ananda was giving this talk to a group of monks. And then the Buddha happened by. And he went by the assembly hall where he saw Ananda and the monks having some discussion. So he went in and he sat down, and he asked the monks. Of course, he already knew, but just as a matter of kind of, breaking the ice, he said, "Monks, who has been instructing and urging and rousing and gladdening the monks with talk on the Dhamma? Who has been reciting the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night?" And they all said, "Oh, Venerable Ananda, he was teaching us. Venerable Ananda, yes." And then the Buddha asked the Venerable Ananda, "And so, Ananda, how were you instructing, urging, rousing, and gladdening the bhikkhus with talk on the Dhamma, and reciting the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night?" And then Ananda recited to the Buddha, basically just reciting exactly what the Buddha had said, the Buddha's teaching on it, what we just read in the first sutta, "Let not a person revive the past." So he recites it verbatim, and and that's how he was instructing, urging, rousing, and gladdening the monks. And then the Buddha replied, "Good, Ananda, good. It is good that you are instructing the monks with talk on the Dhamma and reciting the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night." So you see that this sutta is basically, the same as the first one, except for, Ananda was doing the teaching. So the same sutta is repeated, a second time. You could have just stayed with the first one, right? But no, he wanted to, whoever's compiling this, Majjhima Nikaya, they included, as a separate sutta in itself, the same one. That's to emphasize the importance of this sutta, because it contains the essence of the fundamentals of the Dhamma. Now we go to the third sutta in this series, called the Mahakachana Bhaddekaratta Sutta, number 133. And this involves the one of the Arahants, Mahakachana, who the Buddha praised as being one who could explain the details of some talk, that the Buddha sometimes gave a talk in brief, such as like this one, the verse, or he might have just recited the verses. And then the monks, well, who can explain this, And so there was a number of monks who were known for being able to explain the details of what the Buddha might have taught in brief. So, but anyway, before getting to that part, there's another interesting exchange that I'm going to read between a monk and a deva concerning this sutta. And so this happened in Rajgir. If any of you have been to India, to Rajgir, where the Vulture's Peak is, and the bamboo grove, you might have seen the hot spring in Rajgir. I've been there myself a few different times. And it's a very nice place. It must have been nicer in the time of the Buddha. But anyway, there's one monk named Samidhi who was having a bath in the hot spring. And it was in the late part of the early morning before dawn, or just near the dawn time. The monk probably got up early in the morning and went to the hot spring when not many people were there to have a nice hot bath. And after bathing, he came out and stood while drying himself. He put on his underrobe and was drying himself. And then a deity, it says, a deity of beautiful appearance illuminated the whole of the hot springs area and approached this monk, Samidhi. And standing there at the side, the deity said to this monk Samidhi, who was standing there drying himself, he said, "Monk, do you remember the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night?" And the monk replies, he calls the deity, he says, "Friend, I do not remember the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night." And then this monk asks the deva, he says, "But do you, deva, do you remember the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night?" And then the deva replies to the Samidhi monk again, "I too do not remember the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night. But monk, you're a monk, you better remember those stanzas of one who has had a single excellent night. I don't know those stanzas." And then he says, "Do you know the stanzas?" And the deva says, "No, I don't know the stanzas either." And then he says, "But monk, you better learn those stanzas. You better learn the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night. Monk, you better master them. You better remember them. Because these are beneficial. They belong to the fundamentals of the holy life." So this deva, he might have, heard the sutta give, because the Buddha used to give lots of talks and devas used to come down to listen to the discourses of the Buddha. Now this deva might have heard it, but didn't remember it. Just like the monk could have heard it in the past, but didn't remember it. So they're sort of scolding each other, you didn't remember that, you better, go and learn that and remember that, because it belongs to the fundamentals of the holy life. And then after saying that, the deity vanished and probably went back to his Devaloka. So then, the next day, this Venerable Samiti monk went to the Buddha and paying homage to him, he told the Buddha the whole conversation he had with this Deva. And then he asked the Buddha, he said, it would be good, Venerable Sir, if the Blessed One, the Buddha, would teach me the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night. And then the Buddha, in his standard way, he said, okay, then listen and attend closely to what I'll say. And then the monk Samiti replied, yes, Venerable Sir. And then the Buddha recites those stanzas, the same ones, exactly in the same way. And that's what the monk said, the Buddha said. He just recited the stanzas, but he didn't recite the exposition about how does one revive the past, how does one run to the future, and so on. So then, of course, Samiti, there was other monks there listening to this talk by the Buddha to Samiti. And after the Buddha left, they thought, oh, the Buddha left after giving the summary, but he didn't expound us the exposition. You know, he didn't expound the detailed meaning. And then they thought, who can explain us the meaning? Then they thought, this Venerable Mahakachana, he's praised by the Buddha and other monks by being somebody capable of expounding the detailed meaning. Suppose we go to him and ask him to explain the meaning of this to us. So the monks went and found this Mahakachana and told them that the Buddha had preached these verses of one who has had an excellent night, but they didn't ask him to give the meaning. The Buddha got up and left. So the Venerable Mahakachana gives this interesting little reply to the monks. He goes, monks, it is as if though a man needing heartwood, seeking heartwood, wandering the forest in search of heartwood, he thought that heartwood could be gotten out of the branches and leaves of a great tree, where the heartwood is in the trunk of the tree, but some man is looking in the branches or the leaves of the tree, hoping to find this heartwood after bypassing the trunk. And so Mahakachana tells the monks, it's like that with you, monks. You think that I should be asked about the meaning of this after you passed the Buddha by, when you were face to face with the teacher and you didn't ask him to explain it. Because the Buddha is the one who knows and sees. He is the vision, he's the knowledge, he's the Dhamma. He's the proclaimer, the elucidator of meaning, the giver of the deathless. That was the time when you should have asked the Blessed One the meaning. And as he told you, you should have remembered it. So this is a kind of a scolding that this very senior monk, and he was an Arahant, gave to these younger monks. Most of them probably might have only been Sotapannas, and maybe they were not even, had yet even reached the stream. We don't know. But anyway, so these monks, they kind of begged Kachana, okay, I know, we didn't ask him, it was our fault, but come on, please, we know, you're praised by the other monks and the Buddha himself as being somebody who could explain, the meaning. So, don't find it troublesome to explain the meaning, the detailed meaning to us. So then Mahakachana, he finally agrees and he says, okay, friends, attend closely to what I shall say. They say, yes, Venerable Sir. And then Mahakachana tells them, Well, he explains the verses first, and then he says, I understand the detailed meaning of these verses to be like this. How does one revive the past? One's consciousness becomes bound up with desire and lust, thinking, my I was thus in the past, forms were thus in the past. And he goes on to repeat the same thing with feelings, perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness, that they become bound up with desire and lust, pining for the past forms, feelings, perceptions, volitions, and consciousness. And that's when one delights in that, one revives the past, as we've already mentioned. And then how does one not revive the past? Well, it's the opposite. The mind doesn't become bound up with desire and lust for the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind, or the form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. Does not delight in them. So when one does not delight and cling to them, one does not revive the past. That means the mind is able to keep floating from moment to moment in the present moment without getting caught in the past, as we've already mentioned. So it's very similar to the first exposition. Where the first exposition the Buddha gave was just talking about the five aggregates, but here Mahakachana is explaining the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, because the five aggregates arise with each of those moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. Then how does one build up hope upon the future? One sets one's heart on obtaining what has not yet been attained, thinking, may my eye be like this in the future. May my visible objects be like this in the future, and the same for the feelings, as we've already mentioned before. And how does one not build up hopes on the future? Well, one does not, think like that. So, and how does one does not get vanquished? Again, one does not allow his mind to, get caught in these things and building up, desire and lust or aversion and hatred for any of the objects coming and going. And he repeats the same thing for, again, for the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And that's how one is invincible in regard to these presently arisen states, if he's not getting trapped by them. So he says, when the Blessed One got up from his seat and went in his room without giving the detailed meaning, this is what the detailed meaning was. And so the monks were very happy with that. And he told them, now you can go to the Buddha and ask him about the meaning. So then the next day the monks go to the Buddha, repeat everything that had happened, that Mahakachana had told them, and then the Buddha says, Mahakachana is wise, monks. Mahakachana has great wisdom. If you had asked me the meaning of this, I would have explained it to you in the same way that Mahakachana has explained it. Such is its meaning, and so should you remember it. And the monks were satisfied. Okay, so you can see, again, it's the same basic verses and explanation given in the previous ones, only the little the little dialogue between the monk and the deva is kind of interesting, because these kind of things have been repeated in other sutras that, devas, of course, people nowadays, a lot of people may not even believe what the devas are, but and even, there's no equivalent in English except, some kind of celestial beings, or you could maybe say like angels or, whatever, these beings that live in different heaven realms, because those are part of the Buddhist cosmology. Now, there's one more sutta that's pretty much similar to the others two, and it involves another deity and another monk. So, although this was take place in Kapilavastu, the place where the Buddha was actually born, and not at a hot spring, but just somewhere there in the forest. Then it says, when the night was well advanced, Chandana, a young deity of beautiful appearance, who illuminated the whole of the Negroda's park, approached this venerable, his name was Loma Sankangya. It's kind of a difficult name to remember, Loma Sankangya. That was the name of this monk who was probably sitting there meditating, or anyway, this deity came to him, standing at one side, and then asked him, "Monk, do you remember the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night?" And the monk replies, "No, I didn't. I do not remember that either." And then he asked the deva, "Do you remember the summary and exposition?" And then the deva says, "No, I do not remember the summary and exposition of one who has a single excellent night." And then the deity asked the monk, "Do you remember the stanza of one who has had a single night?" And the monk replies, "No, I don't remember that either." And then the monk asked the deity, "Well, do you know the stanza of one who has had a single excellent night?" And the monk says, this deity tells the monk, "Yes, I remember the stanza of one who has had a single excellent night." And then the monk asks this Chandana deity, how do you remember that sutta? And then the deity says, "Well, one time in one of the heaven realms, the Buddha recited the summary and exposition of one who has had a single excellent night. And it appears the Buddha, he could travel to some of these heaven realms and preach the Dhamma to the deities, it seems. In fact, the Buddha had also gone to preach the Dhamma to his mother, who passed away when she was living in one heaven too. Anyway, so it seems that the Buddha actually went to this heaven realm, in the heaven of the 33. I think that's the same place where his mother was reborn, and recited these stanza. And so then the deity says, I remember the stanza. And then the deity tells the monk again, learn this summary and exposition. And then the deity vanishes. And then again, after the next day, this monk, Loma Sankangya, goes to the Buddha and tells him what happened. And then the Buddha asked him, he says, "Bhikkhu, do you know that young deity?" And the monk said, "No, I don't know that deity." And then the Buddha, because by his clairvoyant vision, he knew who that deity was. "That young deity is named Chandana. He heeds the Dhamma. He gives it attention, engages it with all his mind, hears it with eager ears. So monk, listen and attend closely to what I shall say." And then the Buddha teaches this monk the whole thing, recites the stanzas and the exposition directly from the Buddha. And then this monk Loma Sankangya was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So that's the fourth of the suttas. So you can see that in all these four suttas, I mean, this had to have been important. Otherwise, why would the compilers, out of 152 suttas in Majjhima Nikaya, 4 of them are, even though they're short, 4 of them are repeated. So, they must have done it because, in those brief verses is the real essence of, of the meditation practice, is the essence of wisdom and the direct path to attaining those stages of the path and fruits, as we already remembered. That means keeping the mind grounded in the present moment, and with insight, understanding each moment of sensory impingement, each moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, in that knowledge of arising and passing away. So that's the first insight knowledge that we discussed, a couple of weeks ago. And, that is the way, following the Vipassana method, that one attains the stream entry, and especially not reviving the past and future, and seeing, not identifying any of the 5 aggregates or any of the senses, not getting caught in any of the senses or their objects as they're coming and going. You would be practicing the 7 factors of enlightenment, and you could attain the first path, or entering the stream. And that indeed would be considered a very auspicious night, or having one excellent night. Or in another edition, in another translation, this has been called one fortunate attachment. So one translator has translated the Bhaddekaratta Sutta as one fortunate attachment. So one who has had an excellent night, or a fortunate attachment. If you're going to have any attachment, that would be the best attachment to have. That means the attachment to meditation, especially the attachment to that process of developing insight into anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and maintaining that, having developed the factors of enlightenment up to the level of equanimity, and then going through that conformity and change of lineage knowledge to to attain the path and fruit. So that would be the most auspicious way, the best way to spend a night, or a day and a night. Or if one was to have any attachment, that would be a fortunate attachment, because the attachments that help us practice Dhamma and lead us toward the goal, the practice to end attachments. So we talk about not to be attached to anything, but you have to be attached to the practice, but in a skillful way. But you're practicing non-attachment. So you're attached to the practice of non-attachment to the things that bring suffering, which are the objects of the senses and of the identification to the aggregates. So friends, that's really the gist of the, of this sutta. And, now if anybody has any questions about any of these, then you can write them down on the chat. It looks like we have a couple of here. Yeah, so this first question was, well, it's a comment on the, the five aggregates and the six senses, what Mahakachana was described. These are the Dhamma contemplations. If you remember the four foundations of mindfulness, in the fourth foundation of mindfulness, the contemplation of Dhamma, Dhammanupassana, after contemplating the five hindrances in order to overcome them, then the mind becomes very clear. And then it's the five aggregates and the sixfold sense sphere are the two groups of things that form the basis of developing the insight, just as was just explained. Not taking the form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness, the five aggregates. And if that doesn't work, then you can just use the six senses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and their corresponding objects. And, just letting them go as they arise and vanish. So either of those or both, they're really one and the same. You can't separate the five aggregates from the senses, because in each moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, all five aggregates are there too. It's just different ways of kind of explaining it. And right after that is you're developing the enlightenment factors. And after that is the attainment of, the attainment of concentration. And, then equanimity. So, and understanding the Four Noble Truths. So anyway, yeah, that's why it's important to contemplate both of those groups, the aggregates as well as the sixth sense sphere. Okay, let me see. Another. Oops. Can you briefly discuss the 7 contemplations of insight? They are mentioned in a note to Sutta M31. Yes, those are called in fact, I went over them actually 1 or 2 weeks ago in the Dhamma talk about the purifications, the 7 purifications. And they are the purification of sila, purification of mind, purification of view, purification of overcoming doubts, the purification of understanding what is the path and what is not the path, and the purification of knowledge and vision of the way, which is the insight knowledges, the 8 insight knowledges, and then purification by knowledge and vision, which is the attainment of the path and the fruits. So I went over all of these things in the last couple of Dhamma talks and Sutta studies. So you can go back and listen to those talks if you missed them. Okay, but I'm not going to go into the details about them now because it would take too long. So, and this next question, is it important to understand Buddhist cosmology in order to benefit fully from these teachings? Well, I would say it's a very helpful, especially in understanding the law of karma. So, and especially the idea about the rebirth, how this mind is reborn in different realms according to its karma. And so if you don't believe in rebirth, it's gonna, you can still benefit from the meditation, and maybe you could even attain enlightenment, but it gives the Dhamma more interesting. It makes it more interesting, by understanding, especially about understanding the law of karma and why the differences in beings and so on. And I'm going to talk about this actually in the next probably Dhamma talk. I'm going to start discussing the Paticca Samuppada, the 12 links of dependent origination, which is the explanation of rebirth, and talking about the external rebirth or lifetime to lifetime rebirth and the moment to moment rebirth, which is especially important in our practice of mindfulness and vipassana meditation. So, many people have asked in the past, is it necessary to believe in this rebirth and all these different realms in order to attain enlightenment? And again, it may not be absolutely necessary, but it makes the Dhamma more interesting. But a lot of people, they don't want to be Buddhists, and they don't even identify themselves as Buddhists, and they just want to meditate. And mindfulness is taught and vipassana is taught in a secular, kind of setting, and that's okay. But it's kind of dry. To me, that's called dry insight. But when you have the whole Dhamma supporting it, it makes it much interesting, and especially with all these different stories that you hear. And also, some people might say, "Wow, that's just make-believe and all that." But okay, there's always skeptics. But it's in the Sutta, and these things have been passed down for 2,000 years, and I think it's just somebody's imagination is one should keep an open mind. But anyway, so and we're going to discuss some of that later on for those who are interested. Okay, another question is, how does one gauge one's progress on the Dhamma? Would it be along the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path? Yes, briefly, yes. But another one is the Buddha said that, if in your practice of Dhamma you're getting more confused and you're developing more attachments or more confusion or becoming more unhappy, then what you're doing, needs some reworking. Maybe you're not practicing it properly. But when the unwholesome states of mind, that means greed, hatred, and delusion, decrease, and the wholesome states of mind, that means the opposite, non-attachment, loving kindness, and all the good qualities, wisdom, when they increase, that means you're doing the right thing. Whatever you're doing, your practice is making progress. So that's the kind of the progress of the Dhamma, is when the unskillful states of mind decrease and the skillful states of mind increase. That's progress in the Dhamma. And of course, the skillful states are all of the factors of the Eightfold Path. When your right understanding, right speech, right action, your practice of sila, and the right effort, the right mindfulness, right concentration, the factors of enlightenment, all these things. When you notice, you can tell whether you're getting benefit. You remember back to the first days or weeks or months that you meditated, you had so many hindrances, and now many months later, or maybe a year, 2, 3 or more later, you can see the progress you've made. So, it may be slow, but that's the way it is. There's different temperaments of different people. the Buddha talked about there's some persons whose progress is slow and painful. There's other people's progress that is slow but pleasant. There's other people's progress that is painful but fast. And there's other people's progress that is painful and slow. Now, a lot of people probably fall into that last category, but nevertheless, it's still, making progress. But all of that has to do with one's past karma and the accumulation of, the spiritual faculties and so on from the past and your present conditions. So anyway, we might, discuss that a little bit more longer. So, but yes, that's how one engages one's progress, by reflecting back to when you first started and to what you are out today. Maybe it's not as much progress as you thought, but even just a little bit of progress is progress. Because so many people in the world are going backwards. That means they're going from, ignorance to more ignorance, or more attachments to more attachments, and more anger, more hatred. Instead of, going from a state of ignorance and attachments to a state of developing wisdom, non-attachment, slowly by slowly. Okay, friends. So I think looks like that's all the questions, and thank you for those. And so now we're going to take a short break and to use the restroom or to drink some water, and then come back for a few stretches and some breathing and stretches before sitting down for our meditation. Okay, so see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, so stand straight, feel your feet pressing the floor. Relax your shoulders and arms at the side. Just mentally feel the standing body. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. Taking 4, 5, or 6 seconds to slowly breathe in, hold the air in the lungs for 3 or 4 seconds if you can, then slowly breathe out. And pause for just 1 second before breathing in, and again. So doing that deep, slow breathing, we coordinate the movements with that deep, slow breathing. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back, look up at the back of your hands, stretch up. On the out-breath, turn the palms down and touch the top of the head, the out-breath. And again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, stretch up, feel the sensation. Out-breath, touch the top of the head. In-breath, stretch upwards, hold that upward stretch longer, feel all the sensations. Now release the fingers on the out-breath. Lower the arms back to the sides and relax. Gently close your eyes. Keep the awareness focused inside. Try to feel the body sensations generated by that movement and breathing, being the cells of the body vibrating and charged up with oxygenated blood, and move through the body with the movement. If you can't feel that, just remember standing. Standing. It's the present moment of the body. Just letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Okay, then next, on the in breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms up over the head like this, facing the palms toward each other about 6 inches apart, and stretch upwards. Up on the toes, and the out breath, come back down, heels and arms to the side. Use the breathing to help lift the body, in breath. Like blowing up a helium balloon, the body lifts up. Stretch. Out. Once more, in. Out. Relax. Start to feel those increased body sensations, pulsations, especially in the hands. Feel where the clothing rubs against the skin of your shoulders, chest, arm. It's the present moment, physical sensations. And just remember standing, standing. And then next we'll do the side bending. On the in-breath, raise both arms up and keep the fingers and the arms straight, close to your head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. Feel that stretch in the side. In-breath, lift up. Then other side, out-breath. In-breath, up. Again to the right, out-breath. In. Out. In. And once more to each side, out-breath. In. On the out breath, lower both arms. Just relax. Just close the eyes. Start to feel that increased aliveness in the body. If there's any minor aches or pains or prickling sensations. The whole purpose of doing the yoga exercises in this way is to generate more body sensations so that you can feel them. You have more things to feel. It helps keep your attention focused in the body and not going outside and reviving the past or future. Okay, one last exercise, the head turning from right to left. On an in-breath, turn your head to the right as far as you comfortably can. Look over the right shoulder. On the out-breath, turning 180 degrees back to the left and look over the left shoulder. In-breath back to the right. Out-breath left. In-breath right. Out-breath left. On the in-breath, let the head stop in the center, relax. Try to feel the whole body. The whole standing body, feeling the feet pressing the floor, the arms and hands at the sides, head balanced on top. Okay, now go ahead and come back to your meditation seat. As before, friends, I'm going to be turning off the video so that you don't get tempted to want to look at me meditating instead of looking within your own body and mind. Just try to sit straight. Just try to find that center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. Now move the attention down to the bottom part of the body to feel the buttocks and feet pressing the floor. Feel that earth element of the flesh and bones pressing the floor, the earth or solid vibration. And feel your hands and fingers touching. Relax the shoulders, feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Feel the clothing touching the skin of the shoulders, arms, chest. All those are the earth vibrations. Tactile sensations of the body. Present moment sensations. And feel the head balanced on top of the neck, keeping the chin lifted up, level or parallel to the floor. Again, refine that center of gravity, moving the whole head and spine back a bit. You come close to that tipping point where the body would tip backwards, but just stop short of that. Just mentally feel that straight posture, that alert posture. Feel some sensations on your face, like little prickling sensations. Feel where your lips touch together. Feel the tongue laying in the mouth. Feel the nose. And feel the eyes and the sockets and the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. And from that point behind the eyes, just try to feel the awareness kind of open up to feel the outline of the whole body. It's that general sense of sensations of your buttocks and feet underneath, hands and arms at the sides, clothing touching the skin on different places, the head on top, the collage of those different sensations, giving the perception of the sitting body. And just mentally remember sitting, sitting. It's the present moment of this body. It's not the past or the future, the present moment awareness. Sitting, sitting. And then begin some deep, slow breathing again, like we doing during the yoga, taking a few seconds or longer to slowly breathe in, drawing the air from the lower lung up to the top, holding the air in the lungs for 2, 3, or 4 seconds to feel the pause. And feeling the relaxing contraction of the out breath, following the contracting out breath down to the in to feel the last bit of air go out. A brief pause and the next in breath. So just cultivate this basic awareness, present moment awareness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Now, if you can, continue taking some deep, slow breaths if you're not tired from that. Or maybe let the breath be a little bit shorter, but still a little bit deeper than normal. We're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10. Doing the deep breathing helps to keep the mind focused, concentrated. So with the next expanding in breath, mentally count 1. Feel that pause, sitting posture. With the contracting out breath, also count 1. 1 complete round of breathing. And the next expanding in breath, 2. Feel the pause, the sitting posture. The contracting out breath, 2. The next in breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath 8. In breath 9. Out breath 9. In breath 10. Out breath 10. Now discontinue the counting. So discontinue the deep breathing. Just let the breathing return to its own rhythm, however it wants to go. Probably shorter breaths. Now you were breathing in long breaths, so you know what a long breath is. Now start paying attention to the shorter breaths, the uncontrolled shorter breaths. Still keep the attention focused there in the middle of the body. Feel the subtle movements of the abdomen, the rib cage, the chest. Just continue to watch or follow the movements of the in-breath from beginning to end, and the brief pause, and the out-breath from beginning to end, and the brief pause. Just make that the focus of your concentration, to develop a deeper level of concentration also. To feel the whole breath body, breathing in, feeling the whole breath body, breathing out. There's all the subtle movements of expanding and contracting. And the pause in between. The whole breath body means the whole in-breath from beginning to end, the pause. And the whole out-breath from beginning to end, and the pause. It's important to notice the pauses, to deepen your concentration. Even if the pause may just be a fraction of a second, it's okay. Notice them. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, letting go of the past and future. Just tuning in to the present moment of sitting and breathing. In, sitting. Out, out, sitting. seeing how each breath is different. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, sometimes it's an easy breath, sometimes a difficult breath. It's always changing. The primary object is the awareness, mindfulness of the breathing in the body, the breathing body. At the same time, being alert for hindrances arising. Mind starts nodding, head starts nodding, spacing out. Keep reconnecting in the body. If your thoughts are wandering here and there, just notice the wandering mind. Keep bringing it back. Sitting, breathing, sitting, breathing. Especially be alert when the mind starts reviving the past or going to the future. The body is the only thing in the present moment. Not even being attached to the present moment of the body. Just understanding for what it is. It's just the body breathing. This body lives off the breathing. And different sensations coming and going in around the body. It's also the present moment. Itchy, scratchy feelings, aches or pain, just occurring in or on this breathing body. especially with each out breath, just allowing the body and mind to relax more and more into the present moment. Mind getting more inwardly tranquilized. Awareness becoming brighter, clearer. The mind is calm enough, clear enough, identify the aggregates. This is the material form, sense object, impinging, sound, body feeling. This is feeling, painful or pleasant, or neutral feeling. This is a perception, the mind recognizing, naming, labeling objects. Volitional formations, thoughts or urges. The consciousness, the I, thought of I am hearing, smelling, feeling, thinking. And just coming and going. Or contemplate the six sense objects, six senses and their objects, the ear and sound, the body and feeling, sensation, the nose and smell, the mind and cognition, thoughts. Moment by moment. It's gradually opening up to the flow of impermanence. The in-breath arises and vanishes, comes and goes. Some thought comes and goes. Sound comes and goes. Other body sensations come and go, itch or a pain. There's too many thoughts or hindrances. Go back to taking some deep, slow breaths, counting the breaths again till the mind gets more stabilized. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Sensations come and go. Sounds come and go. Thoughts, urges, ideas come and go. Thoughts of I, me, or mine come and go. These are all just the continuous flux and flow of the five aggregates, the six senses, through this body and mind, to this breathing body, flow of the present moment. We revive the past or run to the future, then anxiety, vexation, suffering arises. The mind is just floating, riding the wave of feeling, hearing, thinking, smelling, tasting. It's the flow of impermanence. That's really all there is. Flow of objects, stimulations through the senses. It's what the Buddha called the all. You can spend the whole meditation just riding the wave of impermanence, the present moment, without clinging, reviving the past, projecting the future, with insight, seeing the impermanence, suffering and no self of these five aggregates. If you spend the whole meditation just doing that, then you have spent one excellent hour or one excellent night. And that would be one fortunate attachment. The attachment to present moment awareness and wisdom. And the meditator understands that this breathing body along with the mind exists, but just for the sake of gaining knowledge and wisdom, not clinging to things in the world. That is how understanding the five aggregates, the six senses and their impermanence, and for the sake of gaining, developing mindfulness and knowledge without clinging to things of the world. That is how one practices mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mind states, and Dhamma. One excellent hour, one excellent night. Sabbe sankhara anicchati. Sabbe sankhara dukkati. Sabbe dhamma anattati. Yada panyaya pasati. Atani bindati dukhi. Esamaggo visuddhiya. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to pass away. And all these five aggregates you've clung to with ignorance bring suffering. And all these conditioned dhammas, as well as the unconditioned sabbe dhamma, are without any owner or controller. They come and go under the power or the force of karmic conditioning. They're without self. When one understands these three characteristics with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purification, the path to freedom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Okay, let us finish this meditation with sending out thought vibrations of metta to ourselves and all other beings. So let's come back and take a few more deep, slow breaths. Hold in the breath for several seconds. Try to feel that subtle surge of oxygenating blood going out to all the cells. Just imagine that as sending metta to all the cells in the body, mind, nervous system, and feel that relaxing contraction of the out breath, the mind coming back to rest in the present moment. And just take several deep, slow breaths like that again, feeling that metta going out in your own body and mind, that friendliness, kindness to yourself, to this body and mind, with the idea that may I be well, happy and peaceful, may I be free from excessive attachment and greed, anger and hatred, jealousy, envy, fear, pride and ignorance. May I be free from the pain, sorrow and sufferings of body and mind brought about by such unskillful thought, speech and action. May I also have the patience, strength, mindfulness and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May my practice of Dhamma accumulate to be able to develop deeper levels, help overcome confusion and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. And continue, if you can, to take some deep, slow breaths. And as you're breathing in and holding in the breath a few seconds, just imagine that energy streaming out of your body, or those thought vibrations out of your mind, body and mind, those thought vibrations of friendliness, best wishes, kindness towards all other beings, wishing your parents and other family members, friends, relatives, people you work with or meet every day. And keep with each out breaths, just extending those vibrations and just imagining those vibrations of metta going out across the fields, the hills and valleys, through the towns and the cities, bringing those peaceful thought vibrations of wisdom, love, compassion, energy to the minds of beings, even sending some of that down Pennsylvania Avenue and Washington to all the politicians, people of power. Just with each out breath, imagine sending these vibrations out across the whole country, across the ocean, surround the whole earth with these metta vibrations, just with the idea that may all living beings, wherever they might be, living far or near, visible or invisible, the weak or the strong, the rich or the poor, may all living beings be well, happy and peaceful, free from greed, hatred, fear and ignorance, free from the pain, sorrows and sufferings of body and mind brought about by their unskillful thought, speech and actions. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings, if they haven't already, be able to hear the Dhamma, to learn and practice meditation, to help free their minds from confusion and suffering. May all beings be able to live peacefully and harmoniously together, understanding the ultimate interconnectedness and interdependence of all things. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. Just like a mantra reverberating throughout space. Well, peaceful, and wise. And for those who like to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times, slowly, and with doing that with the breathing, chanting on a longer out breath. Take a deep breath. Okay, now take one more deep, slow breath, and just breathing in. Stretch your head back and arch your lower spine. Hold that a few moments, feel the sensation. And on an in breath, lift the head up. And on an out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest, stretching the neck vertebrae. And lifting the chin up on the in breath. And relax on the out breath. Okay, friends. So I hope that you hearing the sutta and meditating is able to give you maybe perhaps some more insights. Anyway, try to remember these verses, or at least what the meaning of it is. It means to try to live more and more in the present moment, knowing that reviving the past and projecting the future is, the source of lots of anxiety, frustration, dredging up, memories and so on. And that really the body and breathing, what we carry around with us 24/7 all the time, that is our really our only and solid connection to the present moment. And, by practicing the M&Ms and learning how to make that breathing body one of your constant touchstones that helps you to, remember that present moment. Awareness brings you back to that present moment. Awareness and all the Dhamma insights that come with that can instantly get distilled in those few minutes. Okay, so anyway, I know it's getting late for most of you, and so next week I'll be starting exploring the Paticca Samuppada, the dependent origination, and also in the Dhamma talks on Sunday, starting to talk about a bit about samsara and so on, and incorporating this wisdom into the sort of the bigger picture. Okay, so wish you all the best this week, and
Sadhu,
Namo Buddhaya.
Bhante, Sadhu, Bhante.